San Juan Regional Medical Center is your community hospital, committed to making life better for the communities we are privileged to serve. In fact, better is our mission, improving lives through personalized health and care. What matters most to our patients matters most to us, offering a comprehensive range of inpatient, outpatient, and emergency care services so you can get the quality care you need right here at home. San Juan Regional Medical Center, celebrating life better here since 1910. KSJE is proud to support the Summer Terrace Concert Series, Saturdays at the Farmington Museum. Country and rock music by Terry Rickard, Saturday, July 9th. Soul jazz from the Fets Extet, Saturday, July 16th. The Summer Terrace Concert Series at the Farmington Museum, 3041 East Main Street, Saturdays this summer from 6 to 7:30 p.m.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Megan Cullop, along here with Scott Michlin.
Good morning, Megan Cullop.
Good morning.
How are you? Happy Friday.
Yeah.
How about that?
Right?
Yeah.
It should be, so I do notice that I'm wearing the same shirt as last week, so it should be
Are
known
you?
publicly
Oh,
that I do laundry.
Okay. Thank you for noting that.
Yes.
I wasn't going to point that out in case folks just thought we were a rerun or something.
Well, but we're fresh.
We are fresh.
Yeah. We got a new thing going on.
I would even
this
say
morning.
funky fresh.
I don't know about that.
All right. All right.
That's you.
That's me. It's all me.
Funky fresh.
Okay. You are avoiding that
I am
description.
avoiding that description.
Okay. Anyway, well, it's good to have you here.
Good to be here.
Good to see you on Fridays.
Yes.
So appreciate you coming in, wearing last week's shirt or not. It's okay.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
As long as I'm
Because
here.
there's been laundry done, so it's okay.
Yes.
But here we are. This is our Solutions from the Street program, everyone, that we do every other Friday on KSJE when we talk about a problem in the community and try to present some solutions.
That's right.
That's what we do.
That's what we do here.
Yeah. And then this week, though, you have a doozy.
It's a big.
Don't
it's
we?
I don't even. It's going to be a lot of clarifying questions because I don't even fully understand what's happening.
Right. Well, I think that's true of a lot of us,
Yes.
right? That because it's such a complicated problem, and I think the solution is probably just as complicated, although maybe not. Maybe our guest will correct me if I'm wrong.
He's pretty smart.
Yeah. And so we're glad that he's here. And it's kind of cool because our guest this week was our first guest.
Isn't that fun?
Many weeks ago when we
Lo
launched the
these
show.
Many weeks ago.
So how about that?
Yeah,
I think there's cake in the green room.
Do we have a green room now? When did that happen?
Well, there's a problem with the AC. So it's now a green room. But anyway, we digress.
Yes.
Don't we? So let's introduce our guest.
Cool.
Okay.
We got Mike Eisenfeld here.
Mike, welcome back to KSJE. Thanks for putting up with us a second time.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. And it's good to be here.
Thanks for coming back. Mike, of course, is with San Juan Citizens Alliance, doing a lot of work on environment and energy concerns and legislation and things along that line. And so our problem today that we're talking about is, I think, energy, the future of energy, and that leads to a lot of other really important conversations, I think.
Yes, for sure.
So welcome, Mike, and thank you again for coming in and being with us. And so, locally, and you and I have talked about this a lot on the air and off the air. This area, the San Juan Basin, is in, I would think we can all agree, an energy transition, aren't we?
Yes, definitely.
Some may want it to move faster than others, but we are transitioning.
Well, the transition is on for a lot of reasons: economics, environmental concerns, public health. Lots of moving parts, and for us as a community, how do you deal with 50 to 60-year-old coal facilities that are retiring? What
Right.
we've been trying to work on is sort of like how to transition and what are the opportunities that a community like ours can pursue. There have been a lot of kind of discussions within the government about programs associated with the infrastructure, Build Back Better, coal communities to renewables. There's just a lot of there's a lot of discussion, but is the community prepared to acknowledge that? And some of these programs require applications, timelines, investors, loans, grants. It's not instantaneous. So when we heard that San Juan Generating Station was going to close in 2022, back in 2017, we were talking about a 5-year plan as an organization to prepare ourselves for what that means. So here we are in 2022.
Right. The clock ticking is getting really loud.
We're down to 1 unit at San Juan Generating Station, and nobody's really said anything in the community, in my opinion, about what comes next. And I, as part of my work, I track, where things are with what some of the different projects are, like the Enchant Energy carbon capture, carbon sequestration project.
Right, and that has been part of the conversation, right? I mean, that was kind of, I guess, what the community came back with to say, this is what's next, is
right.
this, this, and I don't want to say experimental, but it isn't really done in many other places.
Well, we
this
can call
technology.
it speculative.
Okay.
It would be the largest carbon capture, carbon sequestration project ever, and when it was announced in 2019, that there were a lot of moving parts that now in 2022, I would say that there's been a significant delay. There's been problems with investors. There's been problems with cost sharers, and I don't think that project will ever be built.
And there you go. So with that being said, then here we are with this plant closing. The associated mine would then also close, correct? The coal mine, because that's really the power plant has been the mine's only customer. And so what's next? And PNM has said that they are working on replacement power, because that generating station really supplied PNM, was the major customer. And so, but they've also asked that the plant be kept open for another couple of months, right, to get us through this summer, the demands of energy during the summer, correct?
Yeah, so Unit 4 is going to stay open until September, and then PNM and Tucson Electric Power is out, so the two major owners are out. And the replacement power, it was slated to be solar and still is going to be some mix of solar. And I think that the opportunities that present themselves at the San Juan Generating Station really have to do with the stranded assets, the transmission lines, the substations, brownfield reclamation, decommissioning. There's a suite of economic opportunities. Will it replace in the entirety the legacy of San Juan Generating Station? Maybe not, but for us, I mean, the important things were getting replacement power here in San Juan County, replacing property taxes, and replacing revenue for Central Consolidated School District. We intervened in a bunch of the cases because PNM and Tucson Electric Power, they want to get out of here. And the PNM stuff's been fascinating because they're in this merger situation with this Spanish company called Avangrid, and then they're also trying to abandon San Juan Generating Station and abandon Four Corners Power Plant. And so what happens when you have a major utility leave? And I feel like we're a culture of abandonment up here in the Four Corners, where we let these utilities just walk away, or we let BHB Billiton walk away. And I think it's time for us to sort of like look at liabilities, reclamation, decommissioning, what comes next.
Yeah, so, well, let's break down a few things, because there's a lot of words going on that maybe our listeners are not familiar with. So when you talk about things like reclamation, what do you mean?
So, for example, Navajo Mines, 50 square miles of historic coal mining, and because it's a federal project, there are requirements under some of the federal laws that they have to reclaim. But reclamation is paid into by all the utilities that have historically owned these coal plants or these coal mines. So, for example, San Juan Generating Station at one point had 9 owners, and now they're down to 5 owners. And City of Farmington owns 5% of San Juan Generating Station, or 43 megawatts. So theoretically, if City of Farmington and or their venture capitalists Enchant take over San Juan Generating Station, do they inherit all the liabilities? That's, a huge question. But what we're trying to do is say, hey, these areas need to be cleaned up, reclaimed, money needs to be put into them, and then there needs to be kind of a thoughtful process about what happens next. Is it brownfield reclamation? Is it solar? Is it energy storage? Is it geothermal? We also have pump storage that's been proposed. There's a couple projects. So, the reclamation stuff is often put off into the distance, and I would say that we're there now. And we're there on the oil and gas too, because there's a big issue with orphan wells and abandoned wells, or wells that are really not doing too well.
And hasn't there been some federal legislation recently that has been introduced to address some of those abandoned wells, especially here in New Mexico, right?
There is, and really what it comes down to is what is the definition of an orphan well, and also are there companies that should still be liable for the wells that they own, and repairing them, looking for leaks, reducing methane emissions. There's a lot of opportunities, I believe, to create innovative approaches to addressing that problem. I mean, 40,000 oil and gas wells up here. Surely, a lot of them would be considered like stripper wells, like really low production. But I think that there's also a lot of wells that are kind of on the cusp of needing to be reclaimed and plugged and abandoned.
Right. And so that's part of this conversation, right? As we talk about maybe jobs that would be lost when these big plants close and the mines close. That was part of the, I think, conversation about trying to bring Enchant into it and save these jobs. But if that, as you've mentioned, that project seems to be delayed, and the plant is still planning to be closed down entirely, right, in September. And so once that happens, there are certain steps that need to be taken that have already been taken, I think, to kind of wind down operations at the coal mine. And also, as you've mentioned, another unit has closed this year, and only one unit is left operating. And so the plant is already going through its motions, if you will, to prepare itself to completely shut down in September, no matter what's going on with the Enchant project. And that continues, right? That timeline hasn't changed.
Right. And we were at public meetings in Shiprock and Farmington a couple of weeks ago that were put on by the Arizona Corporate Commission and also the New Mexico Public Regulation Commission. And at that meeting, Westmoreland Coal basically said that they're going to be down to 60 miners, and they're going to be working on reclamation for the next 5 years. And so, the other folks who, if they no longer have jobs at San Juan Generating Station, at San Juan Mine, they should get severance. They should be looked out for in things like the Energy Transition Act implementation. These are the sort of things that are really important for our community, is to ensure that we're not leaving folks behind.
And that was part of that Energy Transition Act, wasn't it? To ensure that some of these affected individuals and communities would be kind of helped through this transition, and whether they want retraining or what have you, but there'd be money available for some of these things?
Yes.
A lot of money.
Yeah, unfortunately, because of some of what's transpired with some of the cases that remain open before the PRC with PNM, the merger with Avangrid and the abandonment of San Juan Generating Station. Some of that hasn't been resolved yet, but that's still part of the discussion for our community, is what are the sort of projects that should be funded by PNM, when should it be funded, and what projects need to be prioritized.
Right. And just one other point on you mentioned that meeting with the Arizona Public Regulation Commission or Corporation Council, which one? They have a different name for it in their
ACC.
state, but basically the same
Yeah.
thing, right? And they were here because of the other power plant, the Four Corners power plant, which sends its power to Arizona. It's owned pretty much by the Arizona Public Service Company, and they have announced that they were planning to shut down and get out of the coal business by 2032. And that's another one of these timelines that we were talking about as well. What's the plan, I guess, after that, right? It's
well,
kind of
what's-
deja vu all over again.
Yeah, what's really interesting is that in 2023, Four Corners Power Plant is going to go to seasonal operations. And so it's just a further sort of indication of the challenging economics associated with running these power plants. That's why these utilities want to get out. And so as much as we would like to kind of control our situation, what groups like San Juan Citizens Alliance have done is we've intervened in the Arizona Corporate Commission proceedings, and we're basically asking that coal impacted communities be funded, that, you know, Phoenix and Tucson have derived lots of benefits from having their coal plants up here, and they shouldn't just, you know, walk away. That they, in fact, on the APS, the Arizona Public Service rate case before the Arizona Corporate Commission, we had secured $100 million for Navajo and Hopi communities. And that was kind of pared back to about $10 million by the Arizona Corporate Commission, and what we felt was a very disproportionate, unfortunate decision. And so we're still actively involved in that. And the purpose of the meetings that the Arizona Corporate Commission had in Shiprock and Farmington was to hear from the impacted communities. And you know, I feel like we need to stand up for ourselves with some of these big corporate entities and utilities. And that was sort of our vision in all of this just transition discussion, that if we're not involved, then we're going to get blown off.
Yeah, so how does the community get, like your average Joe who is not part of San Juan Citizens Alliance or is not an oil and gas person, how does the community, what does it mean for the community to get involved in all of this?
Well, that's a great question. So the impetus, I think, for where we could go was that I was at a Public Utility Commission meeting at the city of Farmington, sort of in the city hall, kind of in one of those back rooms, and on the board was a write-up about coal communities' commitment, and there's some sort of discussion about Build Back Better, infrastructure, economic opportunities, economic development, economic diversification, and embedded in that were energy issues like battery storage, pump hydro, remediation. They also had carbon capture and hydrogen and petrochemicals and broadband. Also talking about some of the things that our community has been discussing for many years, like the railroad to Gallup. The petrochemical plant is sort of associated with that railroad, and I personally don't think that that's, you know, a very great idea. And then how do you apply for these things, and how do you know, what are your expectations as a community? I talked to a lot of people in extended networks about transition opportunities, and I think the first step for our community would be to fully engage and understanding what is available. I mean, there were a bunch of things that have been announced. The other thing that sort of came during the legislative session last year was the idea of New Mexico being part of a hydrogen hub, and then there's lots of different colors of hydrogen. And green hydrogen seems to be fairly interesting, but blue hydrogen is problematic because it is derived from natural gas. And then we also need to start, I think, looking at the implications of this region, climate change, drought, wildfires. Things don't seem to be getting easier on that front.
Sure. Yeah, that's certainly true. So what is, okay, so blue hydrogen involves natural gas, and I'm assuming there's like climate implications for that versus green hydrogen. Where does that come from?
Yeah, so green hydrogen is like an electrolyzer process with renewables, but it probably needs to be studied a bit more as to, you know, are you better off just with the renewables or taking that next step? The governor sort of wanted to prioritize hydrogen during the last legislative session, and we're expecting it to come back again. And it's been interesting because the Grants Gallup area really wants to bring back the Escalante power plant, which is in Pruitt, in between Gallup and Grants. And it's interesting listening to those folks talk about their project, and they, in my opinion, they gloss over a lot of the impacts. Like blue hydrogen would require carbon sequestration. So carbon sequestration stuff is really interesting because we've been through that before here with the proposed Desert Rock coal plant.
Right.
Was going to sequester, and they were going to sequester over by Navajo Lake, and didn't. The analysis was not good.
Well, that's part of the Enchant project too, is it not?
It is part of the Enchant project, and those guys are now marketing themselves as maybe hitched to the hydrogen hub.
I see.
Concept. So,
Right.
as far as I understand, the Enchant folks did receive a grant to evaluate carbon sequestration, and I believe that they have some sites about 20 miles north of Farmington, but it's a very complex characterization analysis that has not been completed. And then on its own, it requires an environmental impact statement under the National Environmental Policy Act, which is public involvement, scoping, project design. We're waiting on all the project design elements of the Enchant project, and they've been dragging their feet for 3 years. And meanwhile, they have no permits, and that's what I do, permits.
Gotcha. This is Solutions from the Street, everyone, on KSJE. We are talking with Mike Eisenfeld from San Juan Citizens Alliance about the very complex problem of energy, the future of energy, and the other issues that come off of that, like climate and environment and things along that line, and economic, like jobs and things along that line. Mike, I guess folks would maybe say, but what are we going to do to provide some of these high-paying jobs that the power plants have provided for so long, or the coal mines? They've supported families and for generations, and if those go away, we're not replacing them maybe with as many high-paying jobs. Certainly there are jobs available with the things that we've already talked about this morning with you, like maybe capping those abandoned wells or reclamation and some of those types of things. But as we shift to other economic priorities, how are we able to maybe keep folks employed that maybe don't want to ask folks every day if they want fries with that? They want maybe a different type of career that was similar to what they're leaving.
Right. No, it's replacing $80,000 a year jobs at the power plants and the coal mines is a very serious situation. And I've been to meeting after meeting for many years where the utilities come to town. For example, PNM came to town and they had a whistle stop tour, and all the coal miners were there, and they said, hey, we're thinking about closing San Juan Generating Station just 31 years earlier, and so I empathize, and but I also think that we're losing a lot of these jobs because of attrition, because of the economic factors. And so Westmoreland Coal is down to 60 workers, and San Juan Generating Station is probably down to less than 150. So my thought on this is that the transition money and severance money should go to those workers, and should go to figuring out what comes next. Now, is there a one-size-fits-all? I'm not sure, but I believe that there's construction jobs associated with renewable energy. We could become an energy storage hub. We're trying to do this recreation thing here and quality of life stuff. There's a creation of maybe Farmington as a destination. I mean, we can't overlook the economic diversification aspects of us making this a more livable city. I mean, when I first moved to Farmington, it was one big brown cloud. And I'm not, I don't want to blame anybody, but it was the largest single point source of pollution in the country was Four Corners Power Plant and San Juan Generating Station, as analyzed by Los Alamos National Lab.
Not a list you want to be on.
Well,
I
mean,
think.
it's a reality. The reality.
But they did a lot of work, right? Those two companies invested millions, didn't they, to try to clean up their emissions while they were operating, at least to try.
So the impetus for where we are today was that when the power plants were built in 1962 and 1972, the idea was that they were going to be replaced by cleaner coal plants at the end of their remaining useful life, which was 50 years. And so in 2017, PNM and the other owners of San Juan Generating Station, they closed 2 units, and they put pollution controls on the other 2 units and said, we're good to go until 2053. Well, lo and behold, they came back and said, nope, we want to retire and we want to utilize some economic methods to recover our money called securitization, and we want to use the Energy Transition Act. And then groups like San Juan Citizens Alliance were like, okay, but what's in it for our community? And in intervening, it's a continuing process because thousands of pages of filed documents, and the utilities, I believe, need to be watched very carefully because PNM, for example, is going to look out for Albuquerque and Santa Fe, their main markets. Tucson Electric Power, they're going to look out for Tucson. Arizona Public Service Company, Phoenix. Who's looking out for us?
Good point. Right. Very, very good point. And that, I think, came up, too, when they were talking about replacement power for the San Juan Generating Station, right? Because I think while some replacement power is coming to San Juan County, some of it is also going into, I think, Rio Arriba County and McKinley County. And so that was, I think, discouraging for some of the San Juan County folks that saw that as a, less tax base, and then less jobs and so. But it helps the other communities for sure, and it certainly is a regional effort. But that was also brought up, I think, when they were proposing what they were going to do to replace the power lost when they do close down the San Juan Generating Station.
No, it's fascinating because PNM, when kind of this all was going down, they were saying that they could only do renewable energy closer to their market in Santa Fe and then Facebook and Netflix and some of those other entities happened. And if I've had this discussion with economic development people in Farmington time and time again, but you want to bring progressive companies to San Juan County, what's one of the first things they're going to ask for? Maybe renewable energy? And that's another big fight that we've had with the Farmington Electric Utility, where they had a regressive solar tax. And by the way, they shelved that. They've settled. And I think they knew that they were going to lose their case. So people who were being charged with a regressive solar tax, they're going to be refunded by the city.
Interesting. Well, there you
go.
go.
Yeah.
And
but I mean, that's the thing is that once we got sort of into PNM and said, no, you have to do, we were part of modeling that renewable energy and energy storage was the most cost-effective and most progressive thing to do, and that's what the PRC decided. And so now we're caught up in the supply chain issues, which aren't only affecting solar; they're also affecting coal plants. So it can be done here, and I would hope that it's more of a philosophical. Like if you're not into renewable energy, you think that oil and gas is going to come back, coal is going to come back. I don't think so. I think the coal economy is pretty much shot. But let's diversify. Let's move on to trying to figure out a different way of sort of approaching this problem, Maureen.
Right. And it's going to happen whether we want it or not, I think, too. We can kind of see the writing on the wall. At least I think I can. But I think kudos to the local governments who are trying to diversify. You talked about some of the outdoor recreation and some of the pushes towards that, and I think that at least shows some positive looks to the future to try to diversify away from just a one-trick pony economy of being based on the energy industry.
Right.
Megan, you recreate outdoors.
I do.
I know you do.
I do recreate outdoors,
See?
and that is an option. But I have always been, well, there has been talk about creating a space for, you mentioned broadband, for people to like work remote here, basically, to bring in tech. But I think you make a good point that tech is a progressive industry, and they'll be looking for certain things. So I think that's a great point.
Right. We could have fast internet, but if it's powered by coal, that might turn some people off,
It might
I
turn
guess
some
is what you're
people
saying.
off. Yes.
Right? And that's the idea. I think the other issue, before we run out of time this morning, is kind of that replacement power. And just, I think folks are all gung-ho for renewables and, and having a cleaner environment and certainly being able to do that. But if I can't turn on my air conditioner when it's 95 degrees or my swamp cooler or what have you, and there's a brownout in my neighborhood, folks are going to be upset about that. And then
Well,
all
the
that talk
reason
about
we're having brownouts is because a lot of these utilities don't have reliable sources from coal-fired power plants anymore. It's too expensive, and so they need to start. They need to start thinking about a reality check on what sort of power is more reliable and cost effective, and that's renewables. And so, but you're also talking about a lot of communities that are bypassed by the power lines that come from Four Corners Power Plant, San Juan Generating Station, don't even have electricity, don't even have water. And so there's a lot of inequities, there's a lot of social justice issues, and I get that a lot from people who go, well, PNM needs this for their air conditioners, and I don't, that's irrelevant to me, like for kind of a theoretical, conceptual, then they need to do a better job planning.
True. But if I'm their customer and I'm sweating in my house, I mean, why is it my fault then if I can't get the power that I'm paying for as a utility customer, right? Because they don't have enough batteries to supply the demand on a hot summer day, or the sun isn't shining.
They don't have the batteries yet. I mean, it's something that they should be doing. That's innovative technology. The reason that a lot of these utilities and the predicament that they're in is because they've done poor planning. And now they're taking these facilities offline. Like they took Navajo Generating Station offline without a plan. What we've been saying all along is you need a plan. And so if it affects some of us adversely, then that's an indication to me that, get involved and demand something different.
Well, that's true. That's very true. And I agree with you on that. I think but I don't know, is the tech there, right? To do that. There. Is it?
Yeah, absolutely.
For battery storage,
yeah.
and for having the enough power to meet the demands of.
There's a lot of innovative things, like now whether they're going to utilize like molten salt, whether they're going to utilize lithium, whether they're going. I mean, that's probably above my pay scale in terms of the technological. But in terms of developing that, and in terms of creating something that really could put San Juan County on the map, that's an opportunity. That's an option. But this sort of thing that the utilities are doing, this brownout scare, I think that's unfortunate. I mean, and my family, we have full solar, and if I were to do it again, I wouldn't even go through the city. I'd put a battery on my home and call it good. I think that we put too much faith that these utilities are going to do the right thing, and I think that we need to demand better service from our utility whenever there's a discussion about what their next decisions are going to be.
All right, very good. All right, appreciate it, Mike.
Yeah.
Final thoughts, Megan Collop?
I have no final thoughts. I've been learning this whole time. That's been my place in this interview.
I see.
Is learning.
Okay.
So.
Well, I hope you learned something.
I learned a lot.
I always learn something when I talk to Mike.
I learned a lot. So
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on, Mike, to teach us some things and give your point of view, and we really appreciate it.
Yeah, but it is complicated. I mean, I think we can all agree on that.
Yeah, but that's what makes it interesting.
Well, it does. It makes for a good radio show.
And you know, like I sure don't have, I surely do not have all the answers, but I also think that, you know, we need more advocates. We need more people who are interested, who want to learn, and also who, I come from a background of intellectual curiosity, whether I like it or not. I was always asked to sort of explain things if I brought it up at the dinner table. So that is the way it works.
Right, fair enough. But I think it's important for the community to know that these issues exist,
Yes.
and maybe, you know, what questions to ask as we move forward to our elected officials, to our utilities, you know, to these other companies that want to provide power and you know, and demand, you know, what everyone demanded. We want reliable power, we want affordable power. I mean, that's what I've been told time and time again is the mission of the electric utility, and so that's what they go by when they make some of their decisions. But
Yeah, and I mean that's certainly to be respected. I mean, you know, their number one concern is reliability and providing for the community, and so I think that it needs to be recognized what they do. That's a very
Sure.
important part of our community.
right. Well, and if price was no option, I think a lot of folks would opt for solar and batteries and just not have to worry about it.
Well,
As-
that's certainly an option for people here, and as somebody who did that at my house, I definitely think it's a great idea.
There you go. See, and now we turn into a rerun of the first show.
Yeah,
that Mike was
that's
on. But
right.
that's okay. But
Swinging
these
back to solar.
important things keep
That's
coming
right.
back. These
That's
issues
right.
that come back. So,
Yeah.
Mike, we thank you for coming in and sharing your knowledge and the work that you and your organization does, because I think it's really important that folks understand some of these really complex issues. And, you know, we're kind of smack dab in the middle of it as we talk about these plants, you know, transitioning to shut down. What's next? The question marks. You know, what else is out there on the economic development front? From, you're right. You know, we talk about the railroad. I talk about the railroad all the time.
Where's it at?
Right. We don't have it yet.
Yeah, not yet.
Yeah, they're working on it.
Maybe.
They say,
Maybe.
but you're concerned about that too. I know.
Well, Scott and Megan, thanks for having me on, and it's just nice to spend time with you, and I appreciate what you do for the community.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike, very much. That's Mike Eisenfeld from San Juan Citizens Alliance, our guest this morning.
Our guest this morning.
Right. So there you go.
Always learn a lot.
We do. We definitely do. And that means that next week, well, first of all, if folks have another idea for a solution, they could call it. They could email us, right?
Yes, please do. KSJE at sanjuancollege.edu.
There you go. Drop us an email. Let us know if there's another problem that we should be looking at for a solution, or a guest that we should bring on. Send us an email and let us know what you think.
Right.
Or if you want to give us an email or a comment about the show, you can do that too.
Yeah, we love that.
Just be nice about it.
Well, don't even worry about it. Just
Yeah.
criticize us, praise us.
Okay. If you want to critique Megan's t-shirt selections,
Critique my t-shirt selections.
you can do that too.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can definitely do that.
So there is that as well. And then next week,
That's interesting.
we're back to That's Interesting.
We are.
It will be interesting next week.
Of course it will.
Yeah. Connie Mack will be in full swing
Right.
by next Friday. How about that?
It is the Farmington event of the year, right? People love it.
It's a huge event. It's a big community event. Yeah.
Yes.
So we're very excited to be the official radio station of the Connie Mack World Series. So our coverage will begin next Thursday with the opening ceremonies and all that fun
Wow.
activities, right? So
Wow.
there you go. And the parade's coming next Thursday morning.
Yes.
So there's that happening too. And then before we go,
Radio Free Saturday Morning.
that's a show I've heard is really good.
I've heard the same
Okay.
in my own mind.
Yeah.
So, yes,
That's
it
tomorrow.
is tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. And each week we go through a different theme, and I find a bunch of quirky songs that fit into that theme. And so this week's theme is...
You told me.
I
Yes.
did. I'm testing you.
Obsolete technology, I
Yes,
think is what it is,
obsolete
right?
technology.
Yes. How about that? I wrote it down on my old iPad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my old iPad.
And I'm going to listen to your show on
Or
my
just pen and
Zune.
paper.
I'm going to listen to your show on my Zune tomorrow.
What's a Zune?
Oh, come on. Mike, do you know? Do you remember those? Zunes?
No.
Okay.
I'm not alone.
It was the Microsoft MP3 player.
Oh.
That didn't do very well.
Did not take off.
Did not.
Okay.
No, which is why it should be on your show.
Yes, I'm sad that I didn't think about that one.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. I'm sure you have plenty of other obsolete technologies to mention tomorrow on your
Tons
show,
of obsolete
right?
technologies to
So,
mention.
and the songs related to them, I guess, is what you're saying.
Right. It's all about the songs related to the theme. Yeah.
Okay.
And I've been doing this for a while now, so coming up with new themes has become more and more difficult.
Right. But
So.
here you are.
Yeah,
You
here I
keep
am.
plodding through.
I
We
persist.
appreciate that.
Yes.
Your fans appreciate it.
Yes.
So that's tomorrow, everybody. 9 to 11, right here on KSJE. Again, 90.9 FM in Farmington, 103.3 back on the air in Durango. Your
Yay.
Durango fans have let us know. They're so excited.
I know.
They can hear you again up there and, of course, online at ksje.com. So,
Yes.
all right. Very good. Well, have a good show tomorrow.
Thanks.
Appreciate that and look forward to it. All right. And I guess that's all we have for this week.
That's all we have for
right?
this week.
We need to go. So until next week, everyone, thank you for joining us. Please share the show with your friends and let us know how we did. And if you have a suggestion, drop us a line. But we'll see you next Friday here on KSJE. KSJE is supported by Music in the Mountains, a world-class classical music festival based in Durango, Colorado, offering orchestra, chamber, and world music concerts July 7th through July 31st. This year, the concerts come to you with free mobile stage performances in the region, plus other unique venues throughout the area. Find out more at musicinthemountains.com. Keep an eye on the Animas River as the Pirates of Penzance land in Farmington this July. Gilbert and Sullivan's Comic Opera opens July 7th in Lyons Wilderness Amphitheater with performances Thursday through Sunday through July 31st. The show features pirates, policemen, and absurd adventures. There's more Joltworthy entertainment coming in August when Andy takes the stage at the Farmington Civic Center. Find out more at visitfarmingtonnm.org and jolt your summer. KSJE and San Juan College present the Student Success Coaching Tip of the Week.
Hello, this is M&Chi bringing coaching tips over the radio for week 6. Study smarter, not harder. Occasionally, college professors will tell you the information that well beyond the exam. Listen to them. They're sharing this information with you to save you time so you're not studying the wrong information for hours. You can focus on the important parts. If you're unsure about what to focus on while studying, send your professor a quick email to confirm or speak with him or her after class. Studying can be draining, so treat yourself for a little motivation. Buy a coffee from your favorite coffee shop or get some snacks from the campus convenience store. You can also reward yourself by taking breaks for activities you enjoy, like walking, reading, or watching TV. Adding in a reward will give you something fun to reward.
The Student Success Coaching Tip of the Week, presented by KSJE and the Student Achievement Center at San Juan College.
Hi, I'm Sam Payne.